Hi,
Hello,
what's up?
everybody.
Welcome to Around the Block, Season 2.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
un unofficially
Oops.
Season 2, although we did take a week break last week. To sort of like collect our thoughts on how Around the Block was running. Just gonna be us today. Me, Renge, and Ors.
That's me,
The main
yes.
two. Yeah. No
So,
guests today. And probably fewer guests going forward. Yeah.
yeah, so, we made a, as you can see here, we've made a few changes to the overlay, especially. You might be listening to this on like non-YouTube. We've been looking into stuff on like how to distribute this without, aside from just on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on like Spotify or something, that's cool.
Wow, we
Um,
succeeded.
and the old Around the Block episodes are going to be in a playlist on my YouTube channel, but they're unlisted for now, so I can like have better analytics. And this will
Mhm.
probably be, yeah, so it's going to be distributed on like major platforms. Hopefully, there's this thing called Anchor FM that I was linked to that I think should make it pretty easy to distribute to other platforms. Plus, like it have a second YouTube channel for this, which we'll try to upload to.
Yeah, that
Uh,
makes sense.
yeah, so I think the problems that at least we saw were that we're a little too focused on guest variety, getting on a lot of different people. And what that ended up being is that everyone tried to get their opinion on topics we'd kind of already covered.
Mhm.
So like it's just kind of the same things over and over again, and it
Yeah.
kind of got a little too heady with the topics we did talk
A little
about.
heady, a little like circular, I guess is the word I would probably use to describe it. But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is what it is. We ended up, how many episodes we did? 11, 12,
12, yeah.
12 episodes? Yeah, we're like an anime.
Yeah, yeah, one core is done. Yeah, maybe in like 3 months we'll reevaluate again. No, I don't know.
That's not a bad idea. I think that's actually good. We should write that down. Uh,
Perhaps.
but yeah, with season 2 around the block, we're looking to fix some of those problems. Uh, I think what we kind of discussed between ourselves before this was to have fewer guests for one thing and invite the guest based on the topic and not the other way around.
Yeah, so and for the most part keeping things more grounded,
Hmm.
and trying to keep things less about just rambling about some ideas and try to have some keep things a little more grounded.
Hmm. Also, tell more stories. Apparently, a lot of people want stories, so
Yeah.
I don't know that. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, we're not the most like neither of us are like super old school players. So like we're not really going to be able to tell too much like history or whatever. I mean, I've been we've both like been involved with the community for a decent chunk of time, and I do know we do have some stories obviously about stuff that's happened that maybe newer players wouldn't know, but it's for the most part we're not going to be telling like the TF era stories because we can't. But
Yeah.
maybe we'll invite someone on who can.
How
Uh,
did we entered the community at the same time around, right?
Around the
Like,
same time, I think I was a
yeah,
little
you were
before
before
you.
me by a tad into the community, but I think we started playing around the same time.
I see. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well. Well, why don't
Yeah.
we introduce the what we're gonna try to be a little theme for today's stories, today's topic. Uh,
Is losing,
yes.
handling loss as it pertains to Tetris or video
Yeah.
games. Uh, Tetris is definitely a game that I feel like a lot of the player base suffers from not being very able to handle losing and like the variance that comes with a ranked system like TL or like I don't know what other I don't know. I guess TEC
Tournaments.
probably
I don't
doesn't have
know.
tournaments and other forms of competition.
Yeah.
Uh
There are a
yeah.
few like obviously this is a thing that happens with like any competitive activity, but there are a few
Hmm.
things with Tetris, both like the population of players that play, as well as like some core elements of the game that I think make it a little different.
Hmm.
And we'll put forward some of our experiences about that.
Yeah.
Um,
We kind of have
from our
different,
unique
like, we
stories.
kind of have opposite ways of like how we both played the game starting out and still now,
Yeah.
right? So, no,
The
actually, maybe this is a great thing.
Yeah,
Eh,
so we have some
I
some
wouldn't mind.
different things to say.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess we'll get right into it. I'll go first. So I'm sure that a lot of people who know me basically have zero idea how good I am at this game. I'm not amazing at the game. I would say I mean like I'm an X rank. I've been X rank for a while. I started playing around like 2 years ago, so like I'm not like I didn't start on Tetrio, but um like like around the level of people that did start on Tetrio because I'm not like the super genetics improver, I guess. They like started
Hmm.
right when Tetrio started like those good players that came out that's around there. But I didn't really grind TL very much. For the most part
Yeah. You
my
weren't a grinder.
well I just
You
wasn't
were
like
like
a
a different
versus
kind of
grinder.
grinder.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think this is a thing with like I thought it was a thing with like Jstris players in general, like people that started with Jstris or just continued to enjoy Jstris. But my approach to the game or like how I enjoy the game is very solitary, right? I don't really like to. I like games where I'm able to practice a lot on my own and know what to practice on my own before like sort of like risking my pride or anything. And so Tetris is really a game that enables you to do that with how much you can improve by yourself with. And that was kind of the angle I took with advising other players as well, because especially people that had trouble with TL and stuff. And I recognize that that's probably not the best way to do things
Hmm.
nowadays, but I'll give my that's my little background. I'm just kind of a solo hermit grinder. I practice a lot of ultra in the beginning. Now you guys probably know me for doing a bunch of cheese race or whatever, but I kind of experiment with these sorts of things. I'm trying to figure out better ways to like little different exercises, and that's kind of my thing
Hmm.
nowadays, and try to recommend. Okay, whatever. Too much background. So yeah, I barely compete in tournaments. I competed in a few Jaws early on, but on a whim, I decided to join Jstris Cup 12, which I think was last May, right? May or
May.
summerish.
It was after May because it might have. I think it was May. It was either May or June.
Yeah, I mean, I looked it up too
One of
because
the
I
two.
forgot which one I entered. I think it was May, but yeah. So I joined this tournament, like kind of just on a whim. Wanted to sort of like finally get a measure on how good I was compared to other people, and
Hmm.
there's because I didn't play TL, there were people like kind of on the leaderboards who had started like later than me in the game, and I'm sure I was better than at a certain point, but I wasn't really sure if I was like better than them anymore or
Hmm.
like that kind of thing. So, or actually, I don't even know their backgrounds, but it's just people that I had the conception of like these people started playing on Tetris, or they started getting a lot better around the time Tetris started by grinding TL and whatever. It's just kind of almost like an ideological thing of like me trying to see like whether like
Does the old guard still hold up?
or maybe not old guard, but just like it was my way of approaching the game, like was it able to keep up with people that kind of just threw themselves at TL and threw themselves into the fray over and over again. And I remember like well, that's whatever.
Jed was surprised that
Jed
you
was like,
entered, right?
I think he like
Yeah.
asked me to do something, and then he's like, "Oh wait, you're entered." And I was like, "Okay, have fun." And I was like, "Okay." Oh yeah, this is when I was still commentating. That's why. He asked me to commentate pools, but I was playing pools, and yeah,
That's too bad.
basically, I did fine. Right,
Hmm.
I beat everyone that I was like definitely supposed to beat, like pretty easily, but I lost to some people that I was like kind of iffy whether or not I could beat. I think the only one I remember I lost to Corpy, and I
Mm.
forget who the other person was. And oh, Quick.
Quick? Ooh,
Yeah.
Quick's good.
Yeah, but Corpy was like kind of like I wasn't. This is the kind of like he's like a TL grinder. I knew Quick, like I knew that I'd probably go
Mm.
around even, probably slightly worse than him. But it's like, wow, okay, so I am like, this isn't really like what I was doing. Probably wasn't the most productive, despite how much like thought or whatever, or like how much I designed like how to practice single player modes. It's mostly just me kind of sticking inside my comfort zone, and I wasn't
Mm.
really. So just kind of confronting that, I think it's not probably the most common thing. I don't think a lot of people, there aren't as many people that play the game the way I do in the community, but
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, that feeling of like other people are either doing something you don't, or they have something you don't, and like how you try to grapple with like, okay, what caused this, right? And there's a lot of
Yeah.
factors at play, right? Like how well you like deal with tournament pressure or whatever, all these sorts
Mm.
of things. But I mean, I've done like competitive things aside from Tetris, so I would like to. I mean, actually, I'm not really that good with like competition in general, but
Do you remember like do you remember having played in Jstris Cup? Like do you remember like how you felt like during the matches, like
I felt like
sort of deal?
I felt like pretty average. Like I didn't feel like I was playing
Mhm.
especially well or especially badly.
I see.
So like there's really nothing I could do but feel like, yeah,
I
I'm just
guess.
like there's things I need to work on, and the way how
Hmm.
I've been practicing is probably not good enough if for my or for like what I want to do with the game.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I mean that's about
Yeah.
my story. Um, we can talk a
I
little
think it
more about it. Or sorry.
mhm. I think it's interesting that you bring up like the single player not being enough because I don't know. I sort of agree with that, but I feel like there's a larger like overarching thing with that it's like you need to like balance out your practice with single player and more versus specific stuff like actually just like playing the versus game more. I don't actually remember how much you ended up playing versus like outside of tournament settings or
Yeah.
if like you were like a MMC
I played a lot of MMC
constant ping.
basically, but I was pretty much playing the people I always played. I didn't really have good measuring sticks on like how good I was
Hmm.
compared to others, and I mean like getting a random like friendly set against people here and there. It's just like I never really tried to confront like how good I was compared to others, which is
Hmm.
arguably like hyper focusing on that isn't good in another way too. But I don't know if
Oh
that's
yeah.
something that you did or uh,
Hyper focusing on specific players, not really, but like the general growth is sort of. I don't know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
this is a segue to talk about my story. I don't know.
sure, yeah.
Um,
So
I'm the opposite of Ors, pretty much. Those of you who know me or have like been in my stream or whatever will know that I keep a like a matchmaking spreadsheet of all my TL games since April of last year. And
nice.
I've played a lot of TL. I'm definitely like if Ors is the hermit crab, I am just throwing myself into the fire, so to speak. And that's like its own thing, you know, uh with its own set of problems. Recently I grinded up to X rank. That was probably like October, November-ish for me. Uh, and that took me pass through removal happened actually in the middle of that. So
Yeah, yeah.
that was like mid-October. And then after pass through removal, I was like 24.2, which is like pretty decently high U. And then it took me 200 more games to get to X, or like 250 some games. And uh this is probably a good place to talk about plateauing, which is just like, I don't know. I mean, people probably know what it is. But for those of you who don't know, Plateauing is how do you explain it? It's like this thing.
A plateau is like
It's
a
like
it's
a
like a
ecological
land.
thing.
It's like
It's like a
a
flat. It's a flat
it's a
land.
flat piece of
Is what it
land.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like in this context, it's having a period of time where you don't feel or you don't see any growth within yourself or within your play
Yeah.
as it pertains to Tetris. And I definitely felt that for a while in like high U or whatever. Because it honestly, high U, it just constantly feels like you're plateauing and you're not improving because your rank can keep fluctuating so wildly just based on the matchmaking and based on how you're playing a certain day. You can go from 24 point like 44 to below 24K in like a session and a half. I don't know. Do you have that image I sent you the other day? I was
Where?
the graph.
Yes, yeah, I do. Let me pull that up.
Yeah. Uh
Why don't you tell the
but
people about this?
yeah, okay. So if you're listening on the non-video thing, I apologize, but we are looking at a graph of my TL rating over time from October to I don't know, that was like the other day. And I have dipped below 24K a total of like 3 or 4 times before hitting X. And it says upward trend, but in the moment it does not feel that way. You feel like you're constantly just like not improving and you're losing against these people who you feel you shouldn't be losing to, and it's tilt and it's a variable skill based on the day because obviously you're going to play differently day by day.
Yeah.
Uh, but improvement it's not like a linear thing, right? I feel like that's something that people don't tend to realize. It's like uh you'll lose and you'll win, but like actually seeing improvement is just like an over time, like a general trend upwards. And that happened to me like the very end, like the last bunch of games up to X rank. I was like 19 wins to 3 losses, and then I got to X. And I was like, "Oh, well, I guess I am this good." And then I lost X. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Uh but the like the trip, the journey to getting to a place where you want to be, for me that being X, for other people that may be like 24K or U or 24.5 or like 23.5 or like SS or whatever. You're gonna always run, like people are always gonna run into these sections where they don't feel like they're playing well and then they tilt down. And you see the other people around you going up, and that's so scary for sure. That's definitely something else I struggled with a lot, with people who
Yeah.
used to be worse than me catching up or like surpassing me significantly. Uh, I don't know, at CerseiBrutal, I guess. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Search fucks me up.
I think like to constantly be. I think like okay, so for those who don't know, like your Tetra League rank is like percentile based, and it's based on a system called I don't think it's exactly Glico. It's like
It's
some
Glico 2. It's Glico
Glico
2, I
2.
think.
Yeah. And then there's some like
TR's
the way
better.
they do RD is like based on like a Pokemon thing. It's not like the actual I don't know, whatever. Uh but
Is it
like
actually? I didn't know that.
it's fairly accurate to your skill. Grant given that like the players around your skill level like are playing constantly, like up until like probably the top 100 ranks where like the top few players don't really play TL as much, or more like I don't know, whatever, but top, very very top ranks or very very bottom ranks, in between there and those two like huge extremes, when you enter TL, like you are like being fairly judged, right? And it's
Hmm.
very scary. It's really scary to go in, or it can be really scary, or it can be like really play with your emotions to like, no, okay, yeah, people rising in rank over me, like obviously there's some variability, and there's no way to have a super perfect system because like how people are playing on each day is going to be different, but like
it feels like it. It
Yeah,
feels like they're just like if they beat you the one time, they are better than you forever.
yeah,
Or they're better than you until you can catch back up
yeah.
or whatever.
It's
Yeah.
hard to view. It's I think it's also sort of wrong to view TR as something that you can grind. You cannot grind TR. TR is your skill level, right? You
Mm.
grind Tetra League. You don't grind like Tetra rating points or whatever, right? You don't. The more you play doesn't mean your TR is going to go up, unless like your skill goes up, obviously. And that very realistic thing can be like really really uncomfortable for a lot of players. Um,
Oh yeah.
and I think
I
like there's definitely some balance that our community should, or there's a balance there. I think I probably went off one end. I mean, you didn't really like get super uncomfortable or whatever. Like you didn't get like super tilted or like did you like quit TL for forever or something for a little
uh
bit?
mm, I never really quit TL. Let me look. I think the most I ever did was take like half a week off. Or like I
Yeah.
just like decide that I don't really want to play TL for a couple days and I just like fuck around and do something else. But I never took like a long break.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. That might be a bad thing, right? It might not be.
It can be good or bad. I don't know. I think there's definitely I can't like particularly like name a single person, and I think it'd be wrong to name a single person, but like that really really like hyper focused on looking at TR as something they could grind, like not understanding the variability in play, and just it's something that can like really emotionally affect certain
Mm-hmm.
players, especially
Oh
like on
yeah.
the younger side. Like you and I were like we're adults, right? Like
Like
we know how to
we
handle, we know how to
understand
cope. I'm a coper.
a coper and a hoper,
Yeah,
but people like younger than us obviously like they won't know that.
yeah,
And there's a I feel like there's like a big ish thing about uh having your rating like dictate your self-worth. And that's a big conversation.
yeah,
Uh and a thing that our community does struggle with a lot, I
yeah,
think. How good you are as a player defines your place within the community. And I don't agree with that.
yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of gross.
I think, I mean, this is kind of a topic I've tried to put off talking about for like a while because I don't want to say anything wrong about it because I think it's pretty important. But
Hmm.
I think like I'm probably not gonna if we just keep putting it off, like nothing will be said eventually. I
We
mean,
can
like
always
we've
come back to it too.
touched upon, yeah. I think if we do like really talk about it, invite on like a specialist or like a sports psychologist or something, we'll make it its own video. We're not gonna like leave it
Hmm.
in like a little podcast or whatever. But um, I think a main issue or like a way to sum up a lot of the issues is that um, people are tying their self image to like being a good Tetris player, right?
Hmm.
I think it's like if you are not like good at Tetris, you are it's sort of like harming your self image or your image to others. Um,
Hmm.
I think it sort of affected me like when I was started to do coaching, like I was still like pretty impartial to playing TL. I would play it every once in a while. I did like grind up to you before I became a coach in UC, but the first time I got like recognized on TL and then I like lost that round, I was like, "Oh my God, this is awful." Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. Like you taught like this sort of thing. Like, oh, you have really nice like Tspins or whatever." This is before I downstack like ever. So I just kind of LST'd and then I died and I just did that. Like
You do
it
that?
wasn't like a blowout, but it wasn't like a seven
Hmm.
six. It's just like, man, that was, I don't know. It's very
Is
bad.
a little yuck. I've definitely felt that,
But
you know.
it's just
People who
like,
are like,
oh sorry.
yeah, people who are like, "Oh, I watch your streams," or like, "Oh, I really like your tournaments." Is like, "Oh, you're so good at the game." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." Or actually, that happened after the that
The
one
rubber
tournament that I played in. Not the Rubber Ross thing. The
okay.
Rubber Ross thing was pretty funny. We could talk about that later. Um, the the Hinami Arisa tournament where I got second.
Oh,
Someone
yeah,
was like, "Oh, I saw you play. You're so good," and then they destroyed me, and I was like, "Oh, I see."
yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Well, that wasn't fun to
Uh,
experience.
yeah,
Uh, and it's just like, when you're hinging on being a good player to like be recognized or something, that that can be very detrimental to like how you view yourself. And yeah, people people gotta learn, I guess.
yeah,
It's a long process. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Like it's especially for like again because a lot of our community is very young and they don't really have
Hmm.
like uh, I don't want to sound like a yeah, I'm not gonna mention like psych stuff because that makes me sound like a huge tool. So I'm not gonna. But like obviously there's like stages of development and like finding their identity, usually in the communities and like having a sense of belonging. And people don't really
Hmm.
like. It's hard to talk about this game, but like people find belonging in like being a good player. And if you're a good player, like you get to, people will like talk to you or like ask you about
Yeah.
things. That's why I think there was an initial big interest in like becoming a coach or like running tournaments. People just, I think like the trends in the game all kind of come down to trying to, fight. This isn't like a surprise or anything, but it's like trying to have some sense of belonging or
Yeah. Or
identity.
like a sense of like you have a reason to be here,
Yeah,
which is definitely a thing that I've like thought about, uh, both as a player and as a tournament organizer.
yeah,
Uh, just like what are you like? What is your why are you here? Sort of deal. Like, and there's a lot to grapple with when when you feel when you're like in that very like down bad sort of mentalities. Like what's the point? Like why are you? Come on, what you doing there? Why
yeah,
do you continue making these tournaments when it's like whatever, like, or people don't seem to care. And then if you make a tournament and the overwhelming majority of responses is this tournament sucks, you start tying yourself to the quality of that tournament and you beat yourself up over it. Like,
yeah,
oh, like what's my point of as a tournament organizer uh if like all the emotions that people feel coming out of the tournament is, oh, that tournament sucked dick and balls.
yeah.
Can I say that? I can
It's
say that.
whatever. I don't know. All right. I mean,
Not getting on
yeah.
Spotify
I
with that
think it's
one.
just hard. It's just hard to like for especially if you're young to have like the enough experiences to like have inherent self-worth and to
Hmm.
or like have us like a support group or whatever. I think I don't know what it is with the population of Tetris. I think it's just because it's such an unpopular game. It's just like you don't really come to you 99% of the time don't really have other friends that will understand what you're talking about with Tetris. Um,
Yeah.
so the people that come into the game, like, they're not playing games to be had to have friends. They're just they stumbled onto this game and happen to like it. Um,
Hmm.
which makes our community good in a few ways and also bad in a few ways. But I think a lot of people tying into that like self-image thing, they find some like you find some identity by being like the one like Tetris player at your school, right? I don't
Hmm.
know if that's. I mean,
That happened to me a tad,
it happened
but
to me a little bit, but I like tried to actively avoid it. Like, well, I try to actively avoid a lot of people in school, in like high
yeah,
school, but like,
Talamores.
but yeah, and I think that feeds into it. Like people sort of feel like
You're like
their
you're
their
like the
identity is
Tetris kid.
Tetris kid, but now you're surrounded by all these other Tetris kids. Oh, I'm not good. Like I need to be the Tetris kid. I don't know, man. It's kind of starting to get kind of speculative, but
Hmm.
it's that's the why I don't
Yeah,
really have a solid way to talk about this. But I think that's at least an
I
important
think
topic.
yeah, I think that's enough about that. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on the matter, like just because of where I stand within the community. But
Yeah,
that can be a topic for another day, I think.
yeah. And we can ask chat about some stuff, their own experiences with losing
Hmm.
in TL. We can do that right now. There's
Oh
nobody
yeah,
who can
get hype
stop us.
in.
All right, so I don't know. I don't know how many viewers we have.
Me
It's also
neither.
fun. We can
Yeah.
also just go to the other Twitter questions if no
Hmm.
one is
You
here.
can start with the Twitter
Yeah.
questions. People got to
Yeah.
type.
So if you
And
guys have
also
any sorry.
if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment down below.
Yeah.
This is a weird place to chill. I don't know. You can
It's
comment your
fun.
experiences too, and
Or like
I'll
tweet
read
at us,
them.
yeah. I don't know. Lots of
I'll
different
read.
places. So any experience you
Mhm.
have with losing, anything you relate to with what we've said, um yeah. Okay, pretty bad TL mentality. Still sometimes do to an extent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, many people do. It's
Yeah.
rough. TL's
It's
a
scary.
it's scary. You ever you ever I feel like had this when I got to X is I would get to like 25.2 or 24.52 or whatever.
25.2 pop. Let's go.
Yeah, whatever. And I would be so afraid to lose X that I would be like, okay, I've not touching TL again for a while.
Yeah.
It is kind of like gambling.
Yes,
It is
so
kind of
we'll
like
read
gambling.
this out. So CerseiBrutal said, I had a pretty bad TL mentality and still sometimes do to an extent. Like when I was low U, I was so hyperfixated on my TR. And every time I won some TR, I would lose it and be so tilted. It's like gambling. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, I mean, to a degree, this also happens in tournaments because it's also like a 1 day thing. But every time you queue up, every day you queue up, like people, I think just they expect it to like play their best no matter the day or like to
Mhm.
obtain TR that like they deserve. Like if they're always playing their best, you have the highest TR that's possible for them, or like they have the highest tournament placing possible for them. They wouldn't lose to anybody that was lower ranked than them, and that's unfortunately like not the
That is not the
case.
case.
I
Yeah.
think like too many people view nerves as just kind of like a small obstacle versus like
Mhm.
a or like tilt or nerves as like a small obstacle rather than like a skill you have to work on. You have to put yourself into uncomfortable like high tense situations. There's a few techniques to deal with it, obviously, and I think if you looked up like how to deal with nerves, you get the same generic advice. That does help if you're not applying them already, but it's something you have to work on. You have to play
Mhm.
tournaments. Playing tournaments is going to be different from like playing a friend. Uh,
Or playing TL
I
or
mean,
anything
there's
like that.
the there's like Amamiya trying to teach Kazu the difference between IRL and online, but like, I mean, the difference is there, but like, when there's that too big of a skill difference, I guess it's really not really a thing.
Kazu straight up messed them up. Uh,
Yes.
but yeah, getting back into the chat here, CerseiBrutal writes, I think the worst episode of TR Tilt I had was when I was trying to get X and I was up at like 3 a.m. trying to get to 24.4K, but then I just lost like 7 times in a row or something. Ah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Some
And
solidarity from
many
the rest of the
people,
chat.
yeah, many people can relate. I too can relate. I actually had very recently like a 9 loss streak right after I hit 24.6 for the first time. I just like lost 9 in a row. 24.6 down to 24.5. That's
Yeah.
what's up.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
and yeah, I think looking at oh sorry, you can go.
oh no, I was gonna go to a different topic. You can
Oh.
finish your thought.
Uh Serge also writes that it's super scary when you're playing someone lower ranked than you, lower in TR, and you're losing because you get so scared to lose a lot of ranking.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something that I think I can relate to. Uh, Sometimes you run into someone who's like hot off a tilt session and they're hella lower ranked than they should be, but they're back on their feet, and you're just getting hit with the guwap, and it feels bad. And
Yeah.
obviously we've probably all been that player for someone. Every time you upset a 24.6 player or every time you upset
Yeah.
someone who's significantly higher rating, there's another person there, living the experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to note.
And so Sinewave writes that like months ago he went kind of crazy trying to get U rank for the first time. He got super fixated. He took a step back and then kind of improved by playing solo and having some fun. And then he ended up enjoying the game a lot more instead. And I think that's another phenomenon that we see. It's just like players who just can't take, like, you just stop playing TL and you enter again once you're like better and
Once you
once you're ready
feel
for
more
it,
comfortable,
right?
yeah, you
Like,
feel like you're ready.
I don't
Uh,
think there's anything wrong with that. I think I'm
yeah,
basically one of those kinds of people, except
you you
I
just
still
you
haven't
just
still
do
haven't
the
played TL pretty much. I got my X and I kind of like, yeah, that's now people can't say. I kept getting harassed by Sec to like just play one game, right? Cuz just play a game, get X and then leave cuz my like X rank had like decreased enough to the point that my rank was already in the X rank threshold, but I was just unrated. Um
mm, I see.
I
I
think it was
think
you, I don't know.
that's a good. I think that's generally not a bad thing, right? To just like not only to realize that you feel like you're hyperfixating on the TR, but to actively do something about it and stop playing TL, stop playing ranked, and instead do something to have more fun, play friendlies, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, some other players that I know who kind of fall into that basket where they felt not unready to play TL, and then they would play, and then they would shoot up from winning my
Yeah.
S plus tournament to 24K. I was like, yeah.
Is this all right?
That's
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right.
stop tweeting.
It's okay. We
But
could talk to that person later.
I think they definitely. I don't think they had like a similar relationship with TL to
A
a
lot of
lot of us
others, yeah.
who have tended to grind it a lot, but that
Yeah.
mentality is still there. The I don't want to play ranked. That's too scary.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore.
I think it's just like people's approach to the game, people's comfort levels with high stress situations, their like inherent self value, what they just
Hmm.
tie their self value to. Um, I mean, we're all young. I mean, we've been kind of talking about this as though we're above it. But these
No,
aren't things that I guess not really, but
we're not
like
significantly older than
than
the
a lot of.
average, right?
But it's just things to be aware of. There's so many things to take into account. It's hard to like try and say that you yourself has value and like like the little points in a game don't matter, but you can, but also still trying to like care about them because it's a hobby you enjoy. It's difficult to
Hmm.
set goals for yourself without like getting tilted over not meeting them, and just we can't really make any hard conclusions because it's such a personal thing. But hopefully, listening
Yeah.
to some other people talk about it will help you confront it yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Knowing that the other people are dealing with similar feelings and worries that you are, I think uh helps a tad. You know,
Yes. Yes.
like for me, there's a lot of I'll be playing really poorly, and then I'll go like scream about it to not scream about it. I'll type in all caps to one of my friends, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I feel you." It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, ah, at least I'm not alone in my 9 loss streak. Right when I was about to get 24.6,
Yeah.
a classic.
Uh, I don't know. When I lose and like when I lose particularly badly or I'm playing badly, I will sort of just like sit by myself for a little bit and think about it and try and again do more like solo practice to try and figure out
Hmm.
what I was working on. Does that solo practice actually help, or more is it just kind of like resetting to the next day that will help? There's no like. I
Who's to
think
say?
for me, like one of my problems after losing will be like, or maybe for people in general, it's hard to look at maintain a long-term view, like like Renge was saying, right? Like you have to see
Hmm.
the overall upward trend, especially with how quickly some of the newer players are coming up, how people that you used to like somewhat go even with are like racing past you. It's just
Yeah.
yeah. Um
I think being able to see the upward trend is like it helps, you know. But like you never feel like you're trending upwards, but you look back at the player you were 6 months to a year ago or whatever,
Yeah,
and you're like, wow, I average 90 APM now. I used to average 40 APM.
yeah.
That's crazy.
It's
And
so crazy, Range. I look at your stats, like, oh my God, he's like, it's a
like, oh
big
my
big
gosh, I
number.
learned I learned how to do the
Oh,
T spin.
it's crazy.
That's insane.
So, yeah. One
Sausage,
last,
right?
yeah.
Oh, you were gonna
You
bring
can
up the
read
same
it.
thing.
You read it. You
Yeah.
read it.
Do I think it's bad to not care about TR? No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
It's
it's about as much. It's not bad to not care about it. I mean, what bad could come from actively not caring
yeah.
about it? I don't know. The most that comes out of it is just like if you don't care about the TR, just don't be a jerk about it, I guess.
Yeah. I
I
think
there are definitely some people who are like, "Oh, you play rank, you play TL, like blah 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 blah." I,
yeah.
the TL sucks, you know? And that's whatever, that's their prerogative, but I
Yeah.
don't like people that are like that
A lot of
about
projection. A lot of projection.
yeah.
Projecting their goals onto other people.
Hmm.
Goes both
And
ways.
also
Goes both ways.
don't smurf rank cap events. That I feel like that's an important one to
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
you
that
know?
too. Yeah.
Because it is annoying, you
Yeah.
know? At Dom continues trying to enter UCs.
Yeah.
This guy.
He has like
I
a
have a, I
weird
have a
reason
special
for
Dom
it,
clause.
but I'm not gonna try and explain.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah,
I
so
have I have a Dom clause for my UC for my rank cap tournaments. Is Dom can only play in for with the good players.
uh,
Uh,
yeah, I think that's
but yeah.
probably a good little chat interaction sesh.
Hmm.
I think we got some good opinions in there. Yeah, so why
We can
don't
talk about
we
the tweets now.
get some Twitter questions? So one quick
Hmm.
thing before we go on to the Twitter questions. I think we were a little vague with the tweet that went out that like asked for questions. First of all, I think a lot of stuff that came back was like general suggestions instead of like a specific question. We'll phrase it better next time, but
Hmm.
in general, we can't really answer super gameplay related ones because this is like audio. Um, and again, like we're not super old school players. We won't be able to tell super old history,
Old
but
school
we'll
stories.
try and get as many as we can.
Hmm.
Do our research. And
We can also have guests on for that, like
yeah,
I
yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
earlier. I
Um,
think that's a good idea.
and also we're trying to get away from topics we've like already covered pretty extensively.
Hmm.
Like a lot of community and tournament stuff, and like we could also do like not Tetris stuff. It's or like very loosely Tetris related stuff. Just like if you have any like anything you wanna like ask about randomly, that's fine. We're just here to fill air and like talk about some stuff, pretty
We're here
much.
to fill air and talk about blocks.
Yeah, we've been
That
around
that's
the
that's
block.
what's the word.
Yeah.
Yup. He said the
Yeah, yeah,
punchline.
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll get into our questions now.
Hmm.
So the first one we have from Abaloptis, who asked this on Twitter. So he writes, I suspect TEC, Tetris Effect Connected, has a lot of potential for mainstream appeal and growing the community, but have no clue how that could be realized. Any thoughts about that or discussion about what's happening in that side of the community to reach new audiences, if there is something? Could be cool emoji. So why don't you talk
Mm.
about this, Renge, because you are working on something right now that is related to this.
I am working with the folks at Puzzle Kingdom and my own org team TSD on Square One, which actually, what time is it? Did Square One get announced yet? Am I allowed to talk about this? Oh my god. I forgot if
This is
I'm
an
not allowed.
invitational that's been going
It's
on
an
for a while.
invitational. Yeah. It's in February. It sure is. We'll put links in the
Yeah,
description. Don't worry. Uh, it's an invitational with 32 of TEC's best and brightest,
yeah,
and we are trying to have it be appealing to more casual audiences. we're upping the production value with Square One
Yeah.
like harder than I think we've really ever tried to in the past.
Moose is like really trying to
Um,
like hit the big sponsors, hit some
yeah, we're
really
we're trying our hardest
yeah.
here.
There's also
Uh,
the Twitch Rivals thing that happened a while
yeah,
ago.
with Latom, they had Cracarino on the commentary,
Yeah.
which I think was really really good for the community.
Yeah.
A lot of the players, of course, like pretty casual, and the audience generally pretty casual as well. But I heard the feedback from the audience was generally pretty positive, and the people who I talked to about the commentary said that there was some good analysis going on the comms.
Cool. Yeah.
Uh, TEC has a sort of a different sort of vibe to it than like modern block stacker games like IO and Jstris.
Yeah. No, like
Uh,
tuning limit game. It's not
yeah.
really like a typical like tuning limit
Hmm.
game. It has the zone battle, which is like pretty obvious like who's like doing something big. I think it does good with its like
Yeah.
UX and like sound effects and stuff. So
Hmm. It's different because it actively tries to get itself well, it more actively gets itself to a casual audience, more
yeah,
so than I think Tetrio or Jstris
yeah,
kind of do to retain or to get and then retain a more casual player, you know?
yeah. It's I mean it's
Maybe
harder for
I'm just
solo devs obviously, and
hmm
you know
yeah.
good.
Uh but mainstream appeal with TEC, I don't I mean I don't really know. Enhance is a great
Great
company to
company,
work with.
yes.
They've definitely helped the competitive community more so than with any other official Tetris company game. But
Yeah.
like in terms of actually getting people's attention and keeping it, that like only really time will tell. And I'm hoping that Square One, uh, with all of its production value, will be able to, like wrangle in some casual viewers and be like, yeah, this is Tetris.
Yeah.
You should
That's
pay attention
Tetris.
to us.
Yeah.
We're sick. There is definitely a greater sense of showmanship. I agree. Alcazar, he writes, there's a greater sense of showmanship when something big goes through, it gets felt. Yeah.
Yeah.
The audio and like the visuals definitely are more like they punch more, you know? They
Yes.
punch pretty hard.
Yeah. Just to finish the question, I guess. It's already doing a pretty good job. Also, Square One is coming.
Mhm.
Yep.
Also, watch Square One
Yes, yes.
in February on Fridays and Saturdays, and also I think a Sunday. There's going to be more coming very, very soon. Don't you worry.
Yep, yep.
We'll link it.
So our next
Our second
question,
question are we looking at? Okay.
Caboozled Pie. You can read it.
Caboozled Pie writes, what are your thoughts on Tetrio's current trajectory? Do you think it should appeal more to casual players, more to competitive? Considering that there's only one developer, where do you think priorities should lie? And then he links Tetrio because it has
Yeah.
to. um, that's a good question, especially with character update on the horizon, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
It seems like, well, it's hard to say whether the character system is more competitive or casual focused. I think at
mhm.
surface value, you'd imagine it to be more casual focused. Um, but as for our thoughts on well, what do you think
What do
first?
you think? Do I think Tetrio should appeal to a more
Should
casual
appeal to?
audience?
What's the angle? What's if you're asked?
Mm, if I'm asked,
Yeah.
I would probably, if I was asked, I would probably want to uh move things towards a more casual audience, if only because that means there are more people playing the game. Competitive by nature is a bit more closed off, harder to get into, right?
Yes.
And if I'm a developer trying to like make a living, there's an obvious answer there.
Yeah.
But like I'm biased, so I would like I would like him to I would like Osk to cater to competitive play. Although I don't really know how things are going to shape up either way, right? Like
Yes.
a name as vague as character update could mean anything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Skill battle, you know.
Skill battle, skill battle.
So, I mean, I mostly agree. Or, like, I think this question is so vague, but, um, and it's sort of with some things that we've already talked about, but it's okay. Um,
Hmm.
my, if I were asked and I had a few things to do, first, I mean, there's a few balance changes that people have been talking
No
about.
PCs, baby. No
I don't
PCs.
know. I think just like kind of stabilizing the game.
Hmm.
Giving like a little PC nerf. Maybe it sounds like 6 or 8 or something. Um, tuning down how quickly multiplayer ramps up. Uh, Teensy bits. Other than that, I think the state of default Tetrio right now
Hmm.
is pretty solid. Um,
Yeah. I
I,
mean, how do you cater a game like
yeah,
Tetrio even further or like any
yeah,
further to casual audiences? I
yeah.
actually I guess I can talk about this the other day. Or the other day I hosted a small lobby, like 15, 16 people of very, very new very, very new Tetrio players who I assume had played Tetris a little bit in the past for my university. My
Tetris.com. Let's
university,
go.
yeah, my university esports club had asked me to like run a lobby because Tetris is fun. And there were 14, 15 new-ish players, myself, and one top 100 player.
True.
And uh, it was hard for the new players to enjoy themselves, just because you're. I mean, I had to end up like not allowing the top 100 player to play, and also benching myself because it was just
Yeah,
like how do you balance that for a casual player?
yeah.
Uh, I think one way Tetrio could appeal to more casual players is more robust handicaps to individual players, but
Mhm.
that's I don't know, that's kind of a me thing.
I think
I'd
yeah.
like that.
More robust handicaps could help. Um, I think that the premise of the question that a casual player and a competitive player are different people is wrong. There is just the transition between going from a casual player to a competitive player is too hard. It's not accessible enough. I think if I were asked right now, I would focus my efforts on creating a really robust tutorial system. This could also help, like indirectly help to combat Smurfs by forcing people to go through the tutorials before you enter TL, or something like that.
Hmm.
And
Something like that.
like just like having better single player modes to help players, ease the transition from going from like just
Tetris.com.
Tetris.com to like multiplayer Tetris. There's no
Hmm.
introduction to multiplayer Tetris. And I mean, I'm kind of trying to do that with
With
the
your
guides I've
videos
been
though.
trying to make,
Hmm.
but like that's the main problem I see. I don't Tetrio has like 4 million players. TEC is like has so much content made about it. There's like people know Tetris Effect is a game, but I mean, I'm sure people have bought the game and they've tried it out, and it's a fun game, especially even as a casual player. But there's nothing that will help them bridge the gap between going from playing single player modes like a marathon, or maybe even touching some of like learning ST stacking or whatever as the most advanced thing. But
Hmm.
like there's nothing that bridges that gap, and or nothing easily bridges the gap other
Yeah.
than just kind of throwing yourself in, joining random Discord communities, asking for help, maybe, but it's usually just you kind of trial by fire, get better.
Yeah.
Maybe look up
I
a
think
guide or
that's
two.
the I am I am a bit of a proprietor of the trial by fire, but even I will admit that
Yeah,
it's not the best for retaining new players.
yeah,
You know, and I definitely agree that the game the way you get past the initial learning floor, like you like dig yourself out of the 6 foot grave you're in,
Yeah.
uh
It's not
is
outlined
just
well
like you
enough.
have it's not linear. Yeah, it's not obvious enough. You just gotta like
Yeah.
go up to someone in quick play. That was actually me. Do you know that? One
Uh,
of my first coaching sessions was with Chocolad,
oh, really?
uh,
That's crazy, actually.
number one Swedish player. I was playing in a quick play room, and he was winning, and so I messaged him, and I was like, "Hi, can you teach me how to play this game?" And he said, "Sure." And then he told me to practice sprint.
Yeah, there you go.
And I don't feel like that should need to happen.
I think Chocolate's. Yeah, I mean, Chocolate did fine, actually. I coached trial Chocolate. I think he did a good job.
Yeah. He taught me a lot of stuff that I like hadn't heard from previous people I tried to have coach me. I was like decent. Like I was past the learning floor, but uh seeking out ways to improve shouldn't have to be going into quick play,
Yes.
seeing someone cleaning house and then going, "Hi, I'm your biggest fan. Please sign my forehead and also coach me."
You should just be going to my YouTube channel and subscribing for more crazy YouTube Tetris guides. So I'm just okay. I don't know. I'm just kidding. All right.
Yeah.
Um,
Alcazar actually in the chat before we get into this new one, this next question. He writes that even something as simple as a T-spin can feel needlessly obtuse for a new player, and when it's something that's seen as bread and butter, it can be disheartening. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
Tetris is lucky. I put it in relation to Puyo Puyo a lot of the time because T-spins are, if you go really slow, you can sort of visualize it a lot of the time, even as a newer player. You'll just build it really poorly, but you can still physically make a T-spin, which I think is something that Tetris definitely has going for it. Put it in contrast to games like Puyo Puyo, where something like making a 4 chain and then putting like a tail at the end of it to expand
Yeah.
it to like an 8 chain, that makes no sense.
I
You
mean, I think Puyo is also like you can build four chains without like knowing any setups,
Yeah,
right?
you
Like,
can, but it's not intuitive. It's not nearly as
yeah.
intuitive as making a T-spin or
I'm sure we're
something like
also
that.
talking from hindsight, but
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure, for sure.
both are very very like intuitive, well designed puzzle games. I think in their base states. A lot of people will argue whether or not Verse Tetris is a good game, but we're not. We've talked about that. We're not gonna get into that again.
Go back to episode
And yeah,
6.
we might yeah, not a topic for right now.
hmm Alcazar in this tweet, the last one we'll look at today, I think.
Last favorite
He
question.
writes, what do you see as the path forward for the Tetris community, especially in regards to what the steps towards mainstream appeal might look like?
Yeah, and I think
Mainstream appeal.
we've kind of just talked about that. I think
hmm
like a lot of the questions seem to view like, oh, Tetris isn't mainstream, right? Like Tetris is such a weird spot that in that people, I think if you went up to people on the street and asked them if they knew what Tetris was, 90% of the time they would say yes, right?
Yeah,
Like it's just a
Tetris is
game.
like it's one of the best-selling games of all time ever.
Yeah,
So obviously, it has huge cultural value. People know Tetris, but people don't know
yeah.
our
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 side of the thing.
branch.
It's just
Yeah.
not approachable enough for people to it's to like go from that side to like this side. I don't know. It's weird to make it like a line. It's like it's a journey, right? And there's just
hmm
not enough. It's like you're climbing a wall. There's not enough handholds on the wall, and it's just there's not enough at the bottom. There's not enough in the middle, and there's not enough at the top. There's just no handholds at all on the wall. So on the
hmm
bottom, it's things like these kinds of tournament videos, like the and I'm again like rehashing a lot of the ideas we've talked about previously, but it's kind of like little documentary style videos, stuff that talks about and gets people excited about like modern versus Tetris as a thing and like kind of hypes things up without explaining too much. And then kind of the middle thing, you have like
Basic guides
basic
to
guides,
hold your hand as you
holding your
improve,
hand
or as
through
you
as you
try to improve.
improve, maybe even slightly more interesting, more in-depth little analysis, but still like with some mainstream appeal, like little informational videos. And then finally, you have like high level analysis or like streams for like by top players doing their own like really in-depth analysis, like just stuff that you would not care at all about unless you were like really into the community, and other which case you like really eat it up. Like if there was just like high level analysis for like it's like I don't know, it's like yeah, I was just like explained it downstacking. It's like it's crazy, you know, like
It's like yum yum
it's
yum.
like people
DL
just like
content.
watch Diao play. Like people like I've also done this, like where you just like rewatch Diao's like hour long Misa session, turn based Misa session. You just like I don't know. It's just like just gotta look, just gotta see, even without any words. It's
Hmm.
just it's very it's just it's only appealing to this sort of people, but it's very very appealing to that sort of people.
Yeah.
Um,
And our system, yeah, to TLDR it is just there are we as like the very very engrossed in the community in the game, we have stuff like
yeah,
those analysis videos and the turn-based Misa and the to some extent like the Blarg stream or the
yeah,
Ritteru stream, but there's nothing to get a player who is C minus rank, 10 APM, just learning the game there.
yeah,
There's nothing, and because of that, there are going to be so many players that if we had the like content infrastructure that a game like Melee has with Awesome Sauce and Turn
yeah.
Down for Wall
I
and
think
content
Melee
creators.
still could use some work too, but
Melee's still working on it, but
like any other
they're in a
big
better
game,
spot than us.
like a League of Legends or a
League,
CS:GO or like a like they
CS:GO is looking.
have like enough handholds, right? They have all those like little
Hmm.
doc videos. They have all this like guide videos. They have high level analysis videos. Like they have it all. We have like some high level content with people streaming. Occasionally, I'll get an analysis video or like a like Diao turn-based video. Like, okay, that's kind of me grasping for straws. We don't really have anything. There's like microblizz or whatever. Like I
Hmm.
think currently focused. We're more focused towards like high level content. That's less to do with the fact that we have an abundance of high level content. It's just that we have zero content or like
At all.
anywhere like in between. I would focus on like the low to middle path because the highest is probably not as important, but that I've settled myself to just okay, I'm gonna make a bunch of guide videos this year, build out the going from someone who like okay, I want to get take Tetris a little more seriously, going to get it become a high level player. That's where I'm at least
Hmm.
focusing on right now. I think eventually we'd want to you know make those wide appeal videos, but I don't think we have the infrastructure right now to support. Like once we drop that like wide appeal video, if there's nothing to go forward, we lose that. It's a timing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Okay. I think that's pretty good. Pretty much good.
love content. We
Um,
love talking about content
yeah.
and all that juice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's everything we have
For today, pretty much.
today. And before we end, this we are trying, we will be trying to get this on Spotify. Uh,
So,
if you're listening on Spotify again, thank you for realizing
yeah.
what I have initially sort of holy what is Blockfish doing? Sorry. um what I have for a while kind of just put off because I didn't really think anybody would be interested in it. But
If it's easy enough, well, it's like, why not?
it is easy enough. But yeah, that's a bit of validation for you Spotify listeners out there. And if you're in the stream or watching the YouTube video, thank you so much for watching and supporting Around
Yeah.
the Block.
And don't forget to, get those viewer questions. We'll be looking at like, um,
We could probably start looking at like YouTube
yeah,
comments
so YouTube
as a
comments
part
or
of
like you could just, we'll put out another like Twitter post again. And hopefully,
the. Hmm.
like we talked a little bit about how we like questions. I mean, we won't care if like the questions aren't like exactly what we've outlined, but just any questions at all would be cool. It's better
Yeah.
because like we don't have a guest on every time, so
Hmm.
it's all cool, all cool.
Gotta farm the audience for content.
All right.
I mean, what? I didn't say anything. All
All
right.
right,
Thank
well,
you. Thank
signing
you for
off.
coming.
See ya.
Have a good one, everyone.